We're sat in the live room and we all have our little sections and they are permanently wired in to the studio next door. We have a monitor desk. We usually, nearly all the time, work on headphones, and we have our own. This little box here is my own little monitor mix. It's got everybody's things on it, so it's got bass. It's got. We can't fit all of the tracks into the. This has only got 16 tracks, and we record 40 tracks of instruments. So I've got bass drum kit, which is a general mix of the overheads, and I have a ride and hi-hat as well because I like to be able to monitor those separately. Bass, because I monitor myself. I don't use the amp behind me. I tend to monitor myself through the headphones. And everybody's guitars, keys, vocals, samples and loops in case we're using anything like that. Any other bits and pieces that we're not playing that day but are on tape that have been, recorded beforehand. And vocals and clicks, because we tend to play to clicks these days to try and keep things in time. It's just easier for editing the songs together. When we actually record a backing track, we might actually, we might record most of it to a click and then take the click out and let it get free towards the end. That can be a bit more exciting. Or we might just say, you know what, this song just should be free from the start. It sounds a bit, pedestrian or staid or something, or held back. So that's that. And I've got bass pedals on the floor in front of me, which I really only use live. I don't really use bass pedals in the studio. And I've got loads of notes. As you see, lots of paper around here. I make notes. I use these little sort of notebooks just to make notes of chords, how the chords change from version to version sometimes, and just anything I need to remember while we're recording. My main effects unit I use, and it is really the bare bones of my sound. An RP1000, which is a Digitech effects pedal, and it's got volume, or that can be wah depending on what I want it to be, and it's got most of the sounds I've ever used or would use live are in there. There's lots of banks. It goes up to 100 banks of user sound, so I can change all the presets on that. I can change amp sounds if I want to, or I can just use it as a pedal board and have different effects. I can put an effects chain together, so I can have a chorus and a delay and a little bit of distortion and maybe some reverb if I wanted reverb, or tremolo if I wanted a bit of tremolo. So I can get all my effects chained together for one particular section of a song. And then I can go through. The beauty of this pedal, like a pedal like this, is that there are lots of banks, but there were also lots of, within the banks, I can have up to 10 different chains. So if I'm playing a song, if I'm playing a long song, or I just don't want to have to go up and down the banks to get from one effect type to another, I can just have them all in a row from 1 to 10. And that saves a lot of time and a lot of sort of head scratching. A new addition to my pedals is an Electro-Harmonix Pitchfork, which is an octave pedal, and I can have 1 or 2 octaves below the octave I'm playing, or I can also go above. I can have an octave above or 2 octaves above, which gives it a bit more of a kind of guitar with the bass kind of vibe. Or I could have chords. It has chords as well, which I've never really been a big fan of. But most of the things I do really come from me and the bass guitar. My main bass guitar is Warwick I've had it since '84, and it's the guitar that I've used on Brave onwards, really. And I've used it live many times. I've used it on all the Transatlantic albums as well, in case anyone's interested in that kind of thing. And so this is the guitar this is my go-to guitar. Other guitars I have as well. There's my old Rickenbacker that I've joined the band in with. This is my double neck Rickenbacker. So sometimes it's quite nice to be able to go from bass to guitar and just come up with a new piece of music and say, look, I'm thinking of something like this, and I can play the guitar, and then at the same time I could just add some bass. I could loop the guitar. This my Digitech pedal board has a looper, but I've got 2 or 3 different ways of looping sound, and I can layer up that sound. I can have, you know, bass, I can have guitar. Sometimes I'll use 3 or 4 different basses. I can play a tune up the neck, have a few chords going on, maybe a couple of harmonics, and a bass line as well. And that's the kind of thing I might use if I wanted to introduce a song to the band, rather than saying, I've got this idea for a song and this is what the keyboards do and this is what everybody else does. I would just kind of subtly introduce the idea that way. I mean, the most important thing is really the way we interact as a band. That's the beauty of us having a place like this. It's not just for the eye contact and the camaraderie, but the way we interact when we play. And you know, the interesting thing about Marillion and the unique thing about the way we work is that we interact very, very well without anybody really having to know exactly what we're playing. This is where the jams really come into their own, because we can just start jamming from anybody's idea of anything. It could be, I could start playing a couple of bass notes, could be some chords that Mark's working on. Even before they're defined, we can slowly join in and help, you know, work the process through. And we come up with lots of interesting ideas that you wouldn't really you wouldn't really get if you sat down and worked a piece of music out yourself. It's everybody's unique take on what's going on. Most of the time this is on mute, because we don't, for various reasons, we don't tend to monitor the bass through the rig. What's happening is that the signal path that Mike gets is a combination of my pedal board, that one, and a DI from the bass. And because when we're recording drums, I mean, primarily in these situations where we're working on the songs, what we're hoping to get is drums. We're hoping to get bass and everything else as well, but if the bass amp is on, then we'll just get a lot of sub bass over all of the drums, which means you can't edit them, you can't really use them, and they'd have to be redone. Whereas the way we record the bass allows us to reamp the DI'd setting if we want to do that, or work on it in the box using effects from Pro Tools, or, you know, maybe Logic, or I use Cubase and Logic as well. So there's a lot of scope for changing the bass sound, and of course the effects that I have on the pedals as well, through the pedals, will have a bearing as well. Yeah, I am endorsed actually by Warwick, and I used to have Ibanez, so I've got a few Ibanez guitars and Cort guitars. I use Cort. My Cort basses are over there, but I use Cort acoustic basses as well. So, and I've got a couple of Cort acoustic guitars. The other thing I have, which it's usually at home actually, this, because it's my old Takamine guitar, which I've written lots of stuff for Marillion on over the years, and it's good to have. We've got several acoustic guitars. Quite often when we come off tour, they're still in cases, but it's just nice to have one around now and again, so that you can just There's one in the studio as well, so there's always an acoustic around to just play around with as well. One of the things I think is great about this day and age and the technology we have and the internet allowing us to have so much information at hand is that you can actually, you can find out how to become a bass player. You can find out lots of things about how to learn the bass and how to make yourself better. But you have to be true. I think you have to be true to what you want to do, and not, one of the things that I always was aware of was I had a sense of how I wanted to play and what I wanted to do, and that was really, the way I learned that was by listening. I learned that by listening to all my favourite albums, and I listened to everything. I just loved music, and there was a huge variety of music at my disposal when I was young. So it's really down to listening as much as anything else. It's fine to learn the techniques and learn all the scales, but if you're not careful, you can end up sounding like everybody else. It's really down to the creativity, and the creativity comes from listening and finding out what's good about what your favourite songs. What made you want to be a bass player? What were the favourite moments? What were the favourite things that you liked about players? And working out, how that can help influence your style. I mean, obviously, there are certain things you need the technique for. Certain styles of playing, certain ways and approaches, you need the technique. But if you just want to create good music, that doesn't stop you. Not having a technique doesn't stop you creating good music, because it's up here first. No, I can't, I'm afraid. No. I'm sorry.
Thanks very much for watching Marillion's official YouTube channel.
Hello YouTubers, remember to like this channel,
Subscribe to the channel,
and do hit the notification bell
so you're the first to know when we upload new material.